Hello, welcome to our Cognitive Synapse webinar. Today we will be discussing the solution and technology behind Cognitive Synapse, something that our advanced analytics practice lead Patrick Hall has been working on and developing over the last few months. And this will be recorded, so you can listen into it later. We also have Q&A open, so feel free to ask any questions throughout the presentation, and I will field them for you at the end. And Patrick and Wiwat, who is also on the call, will be able to answer any technical questions you have. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it on to Patrick Hall to walk you through the presentation.
Thanks, Sam, and good afternoon, everyone. And I'd like to thank everyone for lending their time to join today's presentation. Today, we'll spend some time this afternoon really discussing in earnest how Microsoft's unified data platform and its AI platform as a service offering provides this ubiquitous opportunity growing out of the LATAM area. And that is a combination of cognitive services in Azure Synapse. And with that, we're utilizing that for automated document processing. But I certainly believe that that description really kind of minimizes exactly what it is. And so as we kind of go through this presentation today, we hope to give you guys a really kind of comprehensive overview exactly what the Cognitive Synapse solution is. So again, just really kind of a high level of what this afternoon's agenda is. Of course, an introduction. We'll detail a little bit more about what Cognitive Synapse is. And then we'll also have a use case demo where we'll go ahead and look at an automated document process on top of the M365 platform, as well as using the form recognizer API that's a part of the Power Platform solution. So we'll take a look at that today. And really, as Sam mentioned, hopefully at the end of this presentation, we'll open it up for Q&A and certainly look to answer any questions that you guys may have. So as we kind of take a look about what we're experiencing in the enterprise today, for most of 2020, a substantial amount of time, with us here at MDS, we spent exploring, conveying, and sharing with both organizations as well as colleagues of exactly what Microsoft Cognitive Services was, along with Microsoft Azure Synapse. So we had a number of presentations, whether it was stateside or in LATAM, individually on the Power Platform, talking about Power Apps, Microsoft's low-code solution, integrating it with Power Automate, being able to have a number of these repeatable business processes that organizations can get up to speed and deploy rather quickly. And so a lot of the conversations around that has been automation. And of course, as everyone you're familiar with, during 2020, finding ways to be able to streamline a lot of our processes, whether it's due through cutbacks in the organization or layoffs. The demand for really streamlining and making a lot of our business and native processes very straightforward was really greater than ever. And so what we spent a lot of time doing while we implemented and talked about Azure Synapse as well as Cognitive Services, we began to see customers come to us with opportunities where we can establish data pipelines or workflows where we took some of those unique business processes, some of those unique repeatable activities within each organization, and make it a part of an automated process, something that an organization can deploy and watch run many times, and certainly make a lot of those internal processes more efficient. And so with that, we established Cognitive Synapse. And so what is Cognitive Synapse? It is really a professional services implemented solution that's built on top of Microsoft Azure Platform as a Service. It includes enterprise data integration, but most certainly it comprises of a number of Azure iPaaS solutions. And it can be whether it's logic apps we mentioned before, cognitive services. And as we kind of go through this, you're going to see one particular cognitive service that's really unique and something that's really kind of utilized a lot throughout our solution here, which is form recognizer, allowing us to be able not to just ingest, but also extract meaningful business data from those digitized documents. And then once we've obtained that data, we can then either save it, route it throughout the Microsoft 365 platform, as well as the Azure POS platform. So as we kind of take a look about what Cognitive Synapse is, it's really a solution that allows us to bring together a number of unique Azure and M365 components to make a very comprehensive single pane of glass solution to automate business processes from ingestion to input into line of business systems. So as we had mentioned before, what are specifically some of those technologies behind Cognitive Synapse? Of course, we mentioned logic apps today, and really when we think of logic apps, really think of specific serverless functions on the Microsoft Azure platform that allows you to be able to run repeatable code, right? And then cognitive services we mentioned before. This is Microsoft's pre-trained models that allow you to use AI to help supplement regular productivity related or business related functionality. So as we kind of think of AI or machine learning today, we know it can help us glean insights greater than you can perhaps perform or conduct with the human eye, right? So now by being able to utilize this same machine learning service, we can now review documents, whether it's being submitted through a productivity platform like a SharePoint or a OneDrive, or maybe we're taking a look at leveraging this with a data platform on the Azure side, maybe something like data storage, like an Azure Data Lake, right? Maybe you're looking to upload organizational documents and certainly be able to derive meaning from that. Cognitive services is certainly one of those solutions today for organizations with an existing footprint in Microsoft, in Azure, that now you can provide greater value, more insights into that content that's saved within your tenant. And of course, we're talking about, as a part of the solution, Azure Synapse Analytics. And for those of you not familiar with that, Synapse is Azure SQL Data Warehouse evolved, right? Microsoft introduced it back in late 2019 at Ignite, where they basically announced that Azure SQL Data Warehouse was really moving away from the more traditional data warehouse platform to more of a modern data warehouse platform, competing with those like a Snowflake or a Google BigQuery or an Amazon Redshift, really looking at a comprehensive, holistic cloud data platform where you're not able to just perform your traditional data warehousing functionality, but also are able to provide things like serverless transactions or being able to perform machine learning transactions, all within the same unified workspace. And so again, this was a game changer in 2020, and being able to provide all of these solutions together, certainly to be able to automate organizational business processes is really one of those advances that we think should certainly be something that we highlight going into 2021. So as we kind of take a look at what exactly is being done with Azure Cognitive Synapse. So for instance, today, when we talk about Cognitive Synapse, we're talking about essentially capturing a digitized document. And again, we're envisioning whether it's a productivity platform, maybe something like a SharePoint, or on the Azure side, maybe someone is exchanging a document to an endpoint that an organization has made available over the internet, right? And by taking that document, we're now looking to say, hey, customer, hey, partner, can I take or extract the information from your submitted document? And with cognitive service and form recognizer, we can say, hey, based on that document you sent us, as well as our pre-trained activities, where we now know, based on previous submissions or similar documents you've shared to help us train and ready that model, we can now understand and interpret the content that's on that document, and not just extract it from that document, but also ingest it into your line of business system. So as we're kind of talking about these line of business systems, it can be anything from, let's say, a SQL Server database or an Oracle database, or it could be your CRM solution, right? And so we can envision one use case where a partner is now submitting to you via web services a digitized version of an invoice. We can capture that invoice, receive that invoice, and extract the specific business value from that digitized document and automate it and ingest it directly into CRM. And of course, you can understand with that automated process, it certainly streamlines it, makes it a lot easier, and coming up with a way to have this end-to-end solution where you're now involved with the partner and integrating it and ingesting it directly within your Office 365 or Azure platform. So as we see today, it's really going to be based on setting up structures to help you understand that data that you're looking to extract from that document, right? And to be able to give us that unified data schema, what we're going to rely on is Microsoft's common data model. And that common data model sets up these reusable, familiar structures, as we see here within our Azure Data Lake storage, these really kind of transactional business structures that you see listed here. So whether it's a contact or a lead or an opportunity or an account, you can see having these really repeatable constructs to allow us to store that data would really be useful. And again, we're kind of talking about a use case. In this particular instance, maybe we're getting an invoice, and because we're a Microsoft shop, we're taking that invoice data and we're automated and automatically capturing it and submitting it into CRM. We could also envision where it could be an organization with an existing footprint in Microsoft 365 or Azure, but that organization could maybe have another line of business CRM or ERP system. It could be a Salesforce. It could be a HubSpot. What we know today is because of Microsoft's investment in the Power Platform and Power Apps, there are over 800 plus connectors that are available out of the box that allows you to integrate with some of these third-party line of business systems. So now when we look at automating that process of extracting data, again, it could be from an invoice or a contract, we now know that we can take that same data and also submit it to non-Microsoft line of business solutions. And again, as we're kind of taking a look at here right now, you're seeing, within the sales CDM folder, a lot of that information is perhaps stored in a JSON file. We can maybe even have it as a Parquet file, right? Because again, we are talking about looking at utilizing Synapse or a more modern data warehouse or data platform. We can also perform analysis on that same data that we've extracted, using our cognitive Synapse, model here. One of the other things that certainly is useful is really having that data lineage, right? Being able to provide insight, particularly, some of those organizations or verticals that have regulatory or compliance concerns, being able to speak to as well as visualize how and when document or content has been received with an organization, how many folks within your organization has access to that content, right? Being able to certainly speak to the accessibility and certainly making a lot of these regulatory needs really available to be reviewed is certainly very critical. And so as we kind of see here within our modern data warehouse sales pipeline, we can certainly look at that process end to end And as a part of this data lineage that you see here, we can save this data flow, right? We can actually have this as a part of our documentation. And then also, as you kind of see here as well, we can also have it as a part of our CI/CD solution that is available now with Synapse, right? We can actually have this as a repeatable solution that's a part of our enterprise, and certainly make it as a part of a mature application lifecycle management process. So again, we talked about before being able to integrate the solution, whether it's with the the native Microsoft Dynamics 365 integration, or maybe it's looking at a third-party solution connector like a Salesforce, right? We know that there are a number of customers today may have a third-party CRM solution, but they also have a footprint in Office 365, right? Whether it's email or SharePoint or Teams, right? We know that a lot of organizations today, I think Gartner listed something around like 84 90% of organizations have some type of workload running in the cloud today. And certainly being able to leverage that existing investment is going to be key as well. And so certainly we mentioned third-party solution connectors, and as well as native connectors with Microsoft. But certainly one of the things we would also want to highlight is that there are native cloud native APIs that we could leverage, right? It is REST compliant. So whether it's us exchanging information, whether using JSON or creating our own custom solutions on top of that, we know today that the Power Platform, Azure, it's a very stable development platform, and one that we could also use to extend our cognitive Synapse solution as well. So as we're kind of talking a little bit about what it is, the whole document automation, and really, as you think about it, that that is a solution that really is broad, right? It can apply to a number of verticals, and there are a number of use cases that this scenario can apply to. So as we're kind of taking a look at it right now, you'll see here underneath the finance vertical, of course, the use case that we've really kind of highlighted throughout this talk so far from an invoice processing standpoint, or think of it as a PO, or for really many other financial related, whether it's document exchange, information exchange, data integration processes, you can certainly envision, because of really kind of the breadth of the Microsoft Azure platform, the APIs that are available to you, and as we kind of talk about being able to, regardless of the document, being able to now train and build a model that can understand the content on that document, ingest that data, and then be able to route and do something meaningful with that data. Being able to have an automated process so you can share that information internally, whether it's with department, or maybe even have it where it's in a B2B scenario where you have that same information available to be shared with your trusted partners as well. As we kind of take a look at it, we know that this is a solution that really can go across verticals. And so again, here we're taking a look at a couple of more verticals, and you can just really continue to imagine some of those things that this use case can apply to. So whether it's healthcare, and we talk about things like physician referrals, or in government, right? Online citizen requests, or education, right? Being able to capture that information. There are just really a plethora of opportunities out there where we are looking for digitized document automation. So what we wanted to do today is we wanted to really kind of take a brief moment to really kind of show how the form recognizer can be used. And I really thought that a good way to kind of show it is to kind of demonstrate it with a common platform that we're all familiar with, we all use as a part of Office 365. And so what we're going to do is, with our fictional West Indies oil and gas company, we're going to take a look at a document that could conceivably be uploaded, right? Whether it's by someone internally, or maybe a trusted partner that you've shared out your document library with, right? And they happen to upload a document, right? And we say, you know what, partner, we want to have this process that no matter when or whatever document you upload, we want to capture that document, and extract that information from that document and make that a part of our automated process, right? Take the data that we've extracted and import it as a part of our data structure, and then maybe route it elsewhere throughout our Azure or M365 tenant. So we'll take a look at that right now. So let me stop sharing and we'll take a look. So let me know if everyone can see my browser here.
Yes, I can see it.
Perfect. And so what we want to do is I actually want to go to SharePoint first and really kind of just talk about and really kind of set up what this use case demo is looking to uncover. So again, we mentioned before, we have a fictional company that we use through a number of our presentations here. It's called West Indies Oil and Gas. And within a library here, we just have it called vendor example 1. And really what we wanted to do is really just kind of showcase uploading an invoice and then being able to kind of take that invoice and ingest it and extract information from that. So I really want to kind of talk a little bit about the infrastructure with this solution, as we kind of talked about before. So again, Cognitive Synapse, we kind of reviewed, it's a combination of Synapse as well as the cognitive services, Microsoft's set of trained ML models. What we're going to see here demonstrated is really how we're able to kind of take the custom model for this particular invoice that we're receiving here and really kind of training it based on the information we've conceivably received or shared with this partner to understand what type of invoices we'll receive from this particular partner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Power Apps here. And as you can see, I'm in my Maker portal in the environment. And I'm actually going to scroll down here. You'll notice in the left-hand side, there are a number of services, but the one we really care about right now, it's going to be AI Builder. And as we mentioned before, AI Builder is a really kind of a Microsoft service that comes as a part of Power Platform. It's also available as a part of the Dynamic CRM. But in this particular case, we actually have a model that we've established here, right? Where we know today that that model has been trained to look for an invoice from this partner. So if we were to really kind of take a look here and see this invoice, and you'll see here, it's just really a test invoice. And again, it's a Microsoft invoice we receive for an online service here, and you'll see it has the costs. But really, a number of kind of, usual invoice attributes that one would look to kind of glean. So what we've done is we've taken this invoice and we've captured 5 of these documents or invoice types. And by doing that, we were able to come in here, right, and identify specific fields or attributes that we need to glean from that invoice every time we receive that, right? And so as you can see here, your attributes or properties or fields like invoice date, invoice number, due date, sold to, you can just go down the list and understand that, again, these are things that are pretty common. So with that, we can now say, okay, we've kind of gotten a sample, right, of what this invoice would look like, how we're going to receive it. And then really here, what it also allows us to do is test it, right? So now I can actually upload. So I know I've done and looked at 5 of these documents. So let's just say I'm going to go ahead and let's get a new one here. So I've done 5 of these. So there's 6 in there. So let's just use number 7 here. Let's open it up. Let's just see. Based on 7, it's now looking at the document and it's doing its analysis. And then of course we should be able to extract the specific information. And generally, again, it depends on really kind of the complexity of the document, what type of information. But as you can see right now, it's kind of identified the specific values that we have within the document. And of course, with identifying this value, what it's also doing is giving us a confidence score, telling us how confident that it's not just interpreted, but certainly captured and understood what the document on the submitted document invoice is. Okay. So with that, saying we've done our test and we feel good about our model, we're saying, okay, so this is now running. Now we're saying we can deploy this and have that available, right? And so one of the really unique things about this is now we can say that model is available. It could be a service. It could be some type of tool that we can leverage kind of moving forward. And so as I said, in this particular use case, we're going to leverage this as a part of SharePoint. And so I'm going to upload that here into SharePoint. And we know that because it's a service and really kind of the ubiquitous nature of Office 365 and Azure, we can deploy it and really use it throughout our tenant. And so like I said here, we're going to really look kind of use this as a workflow. And so now it's Power Automate, and you can see here West Indies Dynamics Form Ingest, right? That's the process we created. So now we're going to say, you know what? Let's kind of based on that document we just uploaded. And bear in mind, again, we're running this manually, but certainly this is something that, because it's Power Automate, you can automatically have this run in your document library as well. Second here. Okay. So we're going to run the flow. Okay. And so right now it's saying it's running that flow, but what we can do is we can also take a look on the back end, right? Because we know that this is something that we have deployed and we have situated here. And so, it does a number of things on the back end here. One of the first thing is, again, the model here, we can kind of see it running or we can edit it, but ultimately we know that we're looking to extract data. And so what I did was, in back when this was actually called entities, I know in the last couple of weeks it's been changed to tables, which is actually a really more fitting name. But as a part of the now table, I created a custom table to allow me to capture data from those invoices, right? So I have West Indies invoices 1, and you'll see my billing period, charges 2, really kind of all the fields here. And as a part of that, we can also go into our data, and now we can see the data. And so as you can see here, that one I just ran, right, 12/8, 12/32, that was now ingested. And so now it's a part of our instance. And so again, really it's a very straightforward process, right, of saying we want to make someplace available where we can receive documents. Again, the document could be anything from an invoice to a PO. You can envision any digitized document. However, really where the thought equity comes into play is by being able to use our professional services to combine both cognitive services, Azure Synapse together and create a model, a way to interpret what that document is, extract that information. And as we kind of just saw here within AI Builder, right? Establish a confidence score, establish a baseline where you as an organization will feel confident that, you know what, I trust my model based on that 97% score or that 100% score, that it interpreted the information and now it can send it and put it into that table, or maybe add it or as some way, an automated way, send a notification to someone within your organization. You name it. It's a way of now being able to really kind of streamline that process. And you can imagine, now, going from maybe a few documents to maybe hundreds or thousands of documents, you can automate ingesting that and then having a process in the back end where it's now interpreting. And so based on, let's just say, if the score isn't over 50% or 45%, again, something that you feel comfortable with, you can say, now let's create that exception where we now have someone review anything that's below, below that agreeable confidence score. There are really a number of ways that we can pursue it. I think I've kind of talked about this quite a bit, but Ruat, I know you and I have been kind of taking a look at this, not just on the productivity end, but really kind of expanding it, right? Because we know now, as we kind of talk about advanced analytics, right, it goes beyond just being able to provide key performance indicators, right? We know now we also need to be able to give organizations the confidence that no matter where the data is, no matter where the data came from, to be able to give them an idea that we can accurately glean that data, and then certainly be able to reproduce that data that we've gleaned and integrate it and share it with other line of business systems. So I wanted to kind of see if we can take a moment right now, Ruat, because I know you're also now working on the custom model on the Python side, kind of sharing with them some of your thoughts and some of the direction where you see us going, with obviously not just the productivity side, but as we kind of take a look at Python and utilizing Azure POS components, how we're opening this up for the entire enterprise and being able to leverage this automated document process beyond just kind of the day-to-day productivity solutions that we saw earlier.
Yeah. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. So yeah, Patrick, I think as you've mentioned, we can leverage it not here, but I would say everywhere in the Azure PaaS. So this could be a part of the pipeline. We can imagine it being within a pipeline, and we have our documents arriving in a data lake or a blob. So earlier, what used to happen was if we have a document lying there, we can save it as a column in a table. But if we want to, do some maybe a report on what is there in the invoices or a dashboard created from the document, there was no way. So now what we can do is, leverage that, have it as a part of the pipeline where the document, would be cracked with the custom model. We'll be able to get the data from it, the columnar data and everything. And also, ingest it within the database or, within the line of business, like, it could be Salesforce or HubSpot. So that way, what information, a record should have, it maps it directly with the document. So you're not storing document anywhere, but you already have that data, that data row from the document with your data that is in your database or in your line of business system. So that way, I think you can leverage a lot of things. Maybe, like you want your invoice data to be going into invoice table. You want your PO information going into your PO table. So that way, I think it can be leveraged for an enterprise, and it can be a automated pipeline. So you just have to, place documents in a library, and it will take care of everything, from start to end.
Thank you, Ruat. And I certainly as we're kind of talking about it and going through it, I know over the summer we had a number of presentations that we did on Synapse, and really Synapse, the way that we view Synapse, the way that we've been positioning Synapse for most of 2020, it really is as the main data platform interface, right? So as we kind of talk about data-driven organizations being able to work productively around data, we view Synapse, and particularly Synapse Analytics Studio, as we're seeing here, is really kind of that kind of de facto interface where all of those data roles, whether it's someone on one end of the spectrum like a data citizen, versus the other end of the spectrum, someone like a database administrator or data scientist. This is certainly an interface where we envision every role within a data-driven organization being productive. And so as we kind of talk about it, whether it's like I demonstrated earlier, leveraging cognitive services, form recognizer, our automated document process, within the productivity end, or you're saying, you know what, we are going to be an enterprise where we are looking for content management of big data, right? And that's really kind of the way you look to discern this. We can certainly talk about managing documents that are 1 gig or lower, right? But we know more and more organizations are looking to manage large content, big data, millions of rows, and then being able to quickly discern and gain value and insight. And that's certainly, as we take a look at cognitive services, that's what we're looking at now. And as we kind of wrap up this particular presentation, I wanted to just make sure to leave it there as that. Cognitive Synapse certainly is a platform where we're looking at managing content, managing data, but managing it at scale, managing big data and being able to give you the insight with very large files in a very quick amount of time. And then certainly what we believe the solution will give you. Okay, so with that said, certainly if there are any questions from myself or Riwat, feel free to ask now.
Hi, Patrick, we do have a few questions. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. One of the questions was, what compliance and security features can you guarantee to ensure the data is protected?
So I actually think that's a really, really good question. I think part of what we're doing when we look at Azure Synapse, as well as cognitive services, there are a number of inherent solutions that's available on the Azure platform. So for instance, we know today that Microsoft just recently announced, along with the general availability of Synapse, is Azure Purview. And one of the things that we got as part as managing content on the productivity platform is the ability to be able to have some policies and practices around the content itself, right? Based on whether it's keywords or specific taxonomy, being able to put certain things in place. And of course, with Azure Purview, and again, what that is Microsoft's evolved Azure Data Catalog. It's a way of being able to manage data. And again, being able to kind of manage the data as we see today in some of the productivity solutions like a list or things like that with for instance, a SharePoint or OneDrive. We actually have that same ability using Purview to manage those large files on things like the Azure Data Lake. We're able to put in tags and have accessibility rules around that content, no matter where it is within your Azure platform. So to me, that's one of the advances, and certainly again, along with some of the other solutions, the tenant protection solutions, such as an Azure Synapse, information protection. Those things are still going to be in place and available for your tenant in protecting that data as well.
Perfect, thank you. Another question is, do you have to be on Microsoft Azure to use Cognitive Synapse? Are there other cloud-based solutions or integrators?
There are, I would say, similar canned AI or ML solutions. And I'd say this, and certainly, Riwat, I'll let you kind of give your input on this. But I'm certainly one of those folks who seem a little bit more partial to Azure. And like I said, it's really because of how broad the platform is. The fact that we can kind of, particularly as a developer or architect, really kind of start with the vision, start with the solution, and really, regardless of where the platform ends up, we feel very confident that the platform itself, which is Azure, would be able to support it. You don't really have that really kind of level of extensibility to me with some of the other cloud platforms. And like I said today, knowing that a number of those organizations, they do have an existing investment with Microsoft, to me also kind of makes it easier to kind of move forward. But again, a number of those services, as we're kind of taking a look at cognitive services, there are some other ML vendors out there that may have similar features. I just think the breadth of what cognitive services offer, there's not really many competitors out there for that. In Riwat, I'll certainly look for your answer on this topic as well.
Yeah, Patrick, I think you're right. So even if there are services that the other cloud vendors provide, I think the way Microsoft has packaged the Synapse, everything about data is at one place. That is something you won't find anywhere. So Google, GCP, you have everything in silos. But I think with Synapse, what they've done is they've brought everything together, and I think that's the beauty of it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, we have another question. Would you recommend every user in a company have cognitive Synapse or only certain users? How would you see this structured internally?
That's a good question, and I'll speak. I'll speak more from kind of the architect and the data, data citizen role, right? Because we know more and more, and particularly I think this year was one of those challenges where more and more roles within an organization are kind of being looked at to kind of wear many different hats. And kind of like, Roat has mentioned, this is certainly one of those unique data platforms where there are all of the specific functionalities or the expected task that a data-driven organization would have, you can perform within Azure Synapse Analytics. So kind of having that extensibility and having such a kind of diverse set of tools available in one platform, I think that's where it kind of adds value in respect to that. And Roat, certainly look for your feedback on that as well.
Yeah, Patrick, I totally agree with you. Yeah, that is where I think it is. And as she asked, every user or organization wide. So I think it depends. I think you can have a cognitive service set up at an enterprise level, and you can make use of it. If you have unstructured data that you want to break, and then there are different systems which you would want to feed, I think you can set up one cognitive service at enterprise level and utilize that.
Yeah.
Okay, and the last question we have is, you mentioned CRM integrators. What other third-party connectors can be integrated? How about Adobe?
Actually, that's a really good question. So there is an Adobe connector. Specifically, what it does, I think there's an integration with Adobe Analytics. I think that's the main one. I would have to double check. But yeah, I think Adobe Analytics, which is kind of its analytic background, you can look to have integration where you can glean that data using the Power Apps as well as Power Automate connector, and then maybe share and include ingest that data in the common data model, or maybe add it into your data lake on the Azure side. So there are a number of solutions that's available for you with that. But like I said, I think it's just with the Adobe Analytics. There could be more, but I would certainly kind of have to kind of follow up on that.
Perfect, thank you. So those were all the questions that came in. If anyone does end up having additional questions, you can definitely reach out to me or Patrick. His email was in the beginning of the slides, but I'll be sending that out to everyone, so you'll have his contact information. And you'll also see this up online for further review. So with that, Patrick, do you have anything additional you want to add?
No, just appreciate everyone coming out and listening to it, and feel free to reach out. I know this is is definitely one of those broad topics, but we certainly feel like this is an area that touches really every vertical, potentially every use case. So if there's any questions at all, any area where you're wondering if we could leverage a solution, feel free to reach out. We'd be more than happy to walk through that path with you potentially.
Perfect, thank you. And yeah, so expect an email from me with just additional information. And with that being said, thank you all for joining us today. And please stay safe.